who we are. I'm Marita Hiipakka and she's Eveliina Asikainen, and we both come from Tampere University of Applied Sciences, and we are senior lecturers there. Eveliina comes from the School of Pedagogical Innovations, and I'm from the School of Built Environment and Bioeconomy. So we both want to promote sustainability development, but we look from different angles, as you will see.
Okay, so I will start with telling you a conference where I was earlier this week, which was on technologies and infrastructures of sustainable continence care. So about how we leak and how we could not leak that much. That might seem that that's nursing, that's elderly people, that's kind of stuff. But really, when you think about the talks, we had talks of perspectives of reusable continence products, waste management and incontinence products, the present and future of biodegradable hygiene products, and what if microbes could produce alternatives to superabsorbent polymers, the potential of synthetic biology for continence technology. And starting with this, I just want to show that we are working for sustainability together, and you have to be able to talk about your great ideas to people who are absolute non-speakers of your language. And that is one of the things which is part of sustainability competencies, that we are able to communicate, understand, and understand each other's perspectives to the issues, and find out what scale is important, what are actually the most important actions in different parts of the world, different kinds of activities. And I would say that healthcare and different kinds of issues in healthcare and sustainability in healthcare are, for example, and bioeconomy and recycling and all that kind of issues in healthcare. There is a lot to do, for example. But there we also have to think about the respect, the humanity, dignity of people. And so that is something very special, and maybe it tells about that what kinds of things we have to be able to meet if we are to act in the world effectively. In our talk, we first define some concepts just to kind of help you understand us. And so sustainable development, sustainability, competence, what are they exactly? And kind of the very old and the first traditional way to define sustainable development is that it's the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So this is something we are aiming at, that is the sustainability, the desired state of affairs, but we are not there, and we have to be careful when we discuss that whether we are actually on the right way. And the future is the important thing. Thinking about 2050, 2060, 2070, and even hundreds of years after that, we have to have a big time scale, even if we are doing things for the present. And then secondly, we have to understand, and you certainly do, that the biosphere, the kind of biological metabolism, so to speak, is the base of everything, but that we have to engage the society and the economy and do it all together, as there is on the top, there is cooperation for the change, the Sustainable Development Goal number 17. And there is an urge
Yeah, as you all know, we are in urgent need of ecological recovery, shown here in the picture of 2000 and the original one, 2015. The planetary boundaries sort of define the safe space for our planet, and unfortunately, already back at 2015, 4 of these boundaries were exceeded, were crossed, and to date there are 2 more to come. So the chemical pollution, now the novel entities, and also the freshwater use is going to be crossed. So there is hope, and knowledge will be the hope, and here is a whole audience of knowledge. So knowledge has the potential to turn things back and to get us back to the green safe zone. But we need that knowledge, and that's your stuff to do.
Yes, knowledge is important, but we need to have the kind of knowledge which also has effect, and use the knowledge in the way that it has effect, and there we come to competencies. So competencies can be understood as pragmatic understanding and skills of doing something. Part of them are knowledge and attitudes, and then when it comes to some kind of a deeper understanding of competencies, they are an innate quality or potential that lies within a given organism, institution, or system. So competence to do it, capacity to do something. And there are 3 different important dimensions. Being, what is it to be a biomaterial scientist? What is there in my identity? And what of it does enhance sustainability? Doing, how do I act? And then knowing, how I use my knowledge. What do I base my knowing on? And these all together, they kind of form your identity. And especially here we are talking about professional identity, which incorporates also your values. And so what is important in your working life, for example? Career, saving the world. What is important for you? Making as much published papers as possible. Well, what are the cross-cutting sustainability competencies then? These have been defined, for example, by UNESCO. And here we come to this kind of issues like systems thinking, anticipatory competency, looking at the future, normative competency, which includes ethics, strategic competency, competency of making change, finding ways of making change, collaboration, critical thinking, self-awareness, being also kind of true to yourself, and they all together make integrated problem-solving competency. So when we think about these, with this triangle of competencies, we can think it in that way, that the knowing is about knowing of problems, knowing resources of knowledge and criticality, and being able to also produce knowledge and together with others. Doing is action for change. How is your work action for change, and to what kind of change? Well, that is lying partly also here in the attitude, in the strategy, in the solutions which you kind of decide to take and produce for change. So this is a triangle of different kinds of sustainability competencies, and we will now look more closely to some of the listed competencies, not all, but those which I think, or we think together, could be important, especially in your profession. And well, systems thinking, thinking about chemical, physical systems is part of your work, quite obviously. But then we also have to think about the natural systems also, but the industrial systems, the societal systems, legislation, labor markets, lobbying, economy. How do we take these and how are they part of your work? And how do they affect your work? How can you affect inside these systems, or how can you even change those systems? So, and it's good to remember that these connections and interactions, they are not equal, balanced, but they are very unequal, unbalanced, and everything, that is in the sentence that everything affects something and something affects everything. There are some issues which affect almost everything, but then some issues don't affect almost anything. But in today's world, this kind of connectivity being you can be the butterfly whose wing could affect many things at some other point, far away even where you work. And I hope I'm today some kind of, or we are today, a butterfly also. Then anticipatory thinking. So futures don't happen, they are made. But what kinds of futures are desirable? How can we facilitate them? So we should imagine more what kinds of futures are possible, what kinds of futures are desirable, though that don't take the kinds of self-evident utopias or dystopias which we learn, but do actively think about futures, imagine futures, and use your creativity in trying to accomplish a different kinds of future and a sustainable future. Then strategic thinking means that you have to think about also the ways of finding ways of accomplishing something. So research could be one way of accomplishing change, but there could be other ways, other careers, other ways of affecting issues. And that is important that you try to find different kinds of ways. For me, there have been many ways. I've been in politics, I've been in different kinds of organizations, I've been working for change in my organization, I've been doing research, I've been educating. They all are strategies for change. But the important thing is that there has to be, or always when you are trying to make change, that is a sign of that you have hope. Because I think this Václav Havel's definition of hope is important, that hope is definitely not the same thing as optimism. It is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but certainly that something makes sense regardless of how it turns out. And it's important that we do something. So hope is kind of the opposite of being reluctant or not caring about things. And that is how I understand hope, and that is how hope makes sense for me in different kinds of ways. So it's kind of that you take an action, and that shows that there is still hope. And if you don't take action and you just let things happen, you don't act through hope. You are easily cynical after that. And then collaboration, and this comes back to where I started. Across disciplines, across academia, industries, education, and it's important that in collaboration we understand different perspectives, different needs, and understand that sustainable development could be very different things for different people, and it's economic, ecological, or social aspects could be differently met in different kinds of situations. And for example, in these discussions earlier this week, where we discussed what do we think that sustainable continence care is, we had issues like dignity, we had prevention, then we had material cycles, we had well, very kind of things which you cannot actually compare between, and you just have to put them on the table and think that in different parts of the chain and in different parts of the system, different things are the most important. Okay. And Marita takes another example.
Yeah, let's take another example, back to the basics. So food packaging system as an example. So let's suppose you want to develop a new or design a new food package. So obvious question is what to consider when designing the packaging. So for example, myself, I find myself from the technology side of view, and probably most of the audience as well, and so for the sustainable packaging, the materials comes for the engineer. It comes first, but looking at this figure over here, this is the system of complexity that also comes at the sustainable packaging. So it's not just the material, it's not just the technology, how to produce a package. It's much more. And so basically in the very traditional way, you could design your package like more energy efficient, use less material, and then you would end up sort of sustainable packaging. But if you take the systems thinking into account, you would design a package that is somewhere here taking all the other aspects into account as well. So then we should ask what kind of sustainability competencies you need when you design the packaging. So just wrapping up with what Eveliina just said, that you need systems thinking to find out all these nodes and different variables in the system, but more specifically to find the relations of these nodes. So if something fails, if something is called off from there, it affects to the system and vice versa. So that's what you have to take into account. And then also the anticipatory competencies, like Eveliina said, the future is not built, but you build the future. So by taking these all these things into account, you may create the future as you like. But the future, you always have to consider that there is some uncertainty, there is risk, there is change. So think with the scales, what happens, or what do you have to take into account if some changes happen. So how do you react? And then also in the systems thinking, the scale of, are you working locally, are you working globally? These things come to the point. But maybe to finalize the communication or the collaboration competencies, that's probably the most important. So communicate, discuss with others, but also listen to what others have to say. So for example, Eveliina and I are here in the different angles of this network. I'm from the technology side, and she's from the more societal side. And we have to learn how to communicate with each other. We have to learn how to discuss and listen to what other has to say, and then do the most valuable package for the system. So no one can act alone, and that's why you have to have these sustainability competencies to get the world a better place to live.
I think that was, yes,
Yeah.
that was our presentation.
Yeah, thank you.